Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to our April 6th, 2022 Ask Me Anything for the Baltimore WordPress Meetup group. So this meetup is informational. Please use the information, products, services that we show at your own risk. Just because we show a website, plugin, theme, service, etc., does not mean that it is an official WordPress endorsement of it. Above all, keep it family friendly, as most of us are attending from home. We're going to do our best to follow the WordPress guidelines for community standards. That means if you break these rules, I'll boot you from the meeting. No spamming or spammer-like behavior. We have people of all different skill levels and backgrounds, so no judgment for people who are at a different place than where you are at. And overall, don't be a jerk. I am Jen. I am a WordPress developer, and I've been building and managing WordPress sites for clients for a decade now. Over the years, I've built, remodeled, cleaned up, fixed up, added functionality to, and done security work on hundreds of WordPress sites. And I organize the Baltimore WordPress Meetup. If you need help or resources, check out the page at impera.com/help. We are going to be using the Zoom chat for quick questions and to queue people up. So take a moment and go find your Zoom chat. It should be labeled chat. Everyone will start out muted, and I'll unmute you to answer. Please make sure that your video remains turned off, as many people have a less than ideal internet connection. Of course, no one knows everything, and we'll do our best to try and help out, but we can't guarantee an answer to every question. All right, we are going to get to the questions. When I call your name, you need to type here in the chat, or I move on to the next person. So the first couple people that we have are Laura, Toby, Regine Ann. Are those three people here? And moving on, Gary or Jackie. And it appears that no one who filled out the questionnaire, including the people who filled it out earlier today, are here. All right, so we'll move on to the chat for questions. Who has a question? Really? No one has a WordPress question. All right, Karen does. Is there any harm in putting products previously listed for sale on an e-commerce site into draft mode? The only issue would be an SEO implication. If you had those products were indexed by Google and they were actually receiving active traffic, or if they were linked from another website, so they were a backlink to your website, in which case you would just want to make sure that there was a 301 redirect set up so that you wouldn't have people arriving at your site and just hitting a 404 error page. But that's really it. A good plugin for redirects is called Redirection. So it is literally this plugin. It is called Redirection. It's got 2 million active installs. It's very easy to use. And you can import files from comma separated value. So if you have like a big spreadsheet that you set up for your redirects, you can just import that straight in. And Redirection also supports wildcards, which means that you can use some regex, regular expressions, in order to set up your redirects. There's significantly more info here, and there's also various different blog posts about it out there. Anyway, very popular, very handy plugin. This is my go-to. All right, Sherry has a question. I'm a beginner. How do you add more white space between objects, or is that more of a theme setting? It greatly depends on what builder you are using. You can go ahead and unmute yourself, Sherry, if you'd like. Are you using the Gutenberg? Are you using Elementor? Depending on what you're using.
So I took over this website recently and it hasn't been updated in like 7 years. So some of the stuff is out of date. We have the Aveda and I think we have the Gutenberg, that one you
Gutenberg.
said. Yeah. Or it's like theme builder Fusion Live.
Okay, Theme Builder Fusion Live is part of the Avada theme.
Okay.
So the first thing is make sure, is your Avada up to date?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Make sure you've got the Avada and all of the builder plugins up to date or you'll have issues. And applying the patches that it wants applied. So once you've done that, if you are working on a page that is using that builder, if you click on edit for either the column or row, etc., then you'll be able to see something for adding either margins or paddings. And by adding margin and padding, you can create more space between elements. So padding would be, for example, if you had a section, here we are, I'm just going to grab this paragraph tag and I'm going to give it a background, yellow. Hopefully you can see that. So if I add padding to this, then you'll see that it adds that padding inside the yellow area. And if I add margin, you'll see that it adds that outside of the yellow area.
Perfect, thank you.
So you'll just want to set the paddings and margins to the appropriate Avada elements. And if you just do a search, for example, on like Avada column add padding, you'll find one of their how-to tutorials, which will have screenshots and possibly even a video.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, next up, we have, oh, I see that Regine Ann joined us. Regine, did you still have your question on WordPress 5.9?
Yes, I do. I had a difficult time trying to join. The link that I got emailed was not accurate. It was for the May 3rd meeting, but I got in.
Oh,
of course, obviously.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
I tried to email back, but anyway, I had to go through a couple of avenues to get in, but I was able to figure it out. Yes, and actually, so my question kind of changed, but I'm still having I still would like it answered. So I'm using WordPress and they updated to 5.9.
Yes.
But my theme, which is still active, was retired, and that's why I said my question changed a little bit. So I did reach out to support, and they were never really direct about could I still use that retired theme or not, because I created it before it got retired. Some of the features in my image gallery are not, functioning properly, but everything else looks like it's okay. But my question is, can I still use a retired theme? I mean,
the answer is yes, for a little while.
Okay.
I'll explain a little more.
Sure.
So what happens when your theme gets retired is it's no longer supported. So you run the risk that there may become a known security vulnerability to it.
Okay.
And it's not, but it's not never going to receive any updates or patches. So that does expose you to risk because it's never going to get updated, patched, etc. And unless you, unless it gets publicly reported and you subscribe to one of the services that will tell you about unpatched but known vulnerabilities, then you'll never even know about it. So that is a risk.
Okay.
The other risk is just that it will become more and more out of date, and
Okay.
most likely more and more incompatible with things. So as PHP versions get advanced, as
Okay.
other plugins get advanced, as your WordPress core gets advanced, it may be that features that it was using or depended on are no longer supported or used.
Okay. Yeah, they would never really answer my question directly because I was a little peeved about it, and I did not get a notification, and I would assume that they wouldn't because it's probably thousands of people. I host with DreamHost that's using, and you know, of course, they're not going to directly say, "Hey, your theme is retiring." But anyway,
DreamHost isn't really going to help you. They are honestly one of my least favorite hosting companies.
yeah, I've been with them. My daughter recommended them to me, and I've been with them for a while. And I'm new to all this. I mean, it took me a year. I'm serious, about a year or more to get my theme to where it is, and it's still basic, but it works for me. So I
Yep.
spent all day mostly, and I suppose been working, but I worked a little bit from home trying to find another theme that was gonna, like, you know, update where I wouldn't have to recreate the wheel, but that's not happening. And I am just so peeved about that.
It depends. Did the theme actually build everything in that theme, or did it use a popular builder such as Elementor or Bakery?
No, I used a lot of plugins. The theme is
Okay.
Selah, and it's a basic theme, but it worked for me. So I have a lot of plugins, and it's just that and I don't have a lot of graphics on it. I'm just kind of, you know, like it's a basic theme, and I'm kind of particular about, you know, cutesy stuff, but
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
So if you are just looking for a theme with a very long history of support, this company does professional version of this theme, and they've been supporting it for years. So this is the free version of the theme. It works very well with all of the popular page builders, including the ones that are free and paid. Works very well for a lot of things. It's a very good multi-purpose theme that's got a solid support history.
Yeah, I'm using free stuff as much as I can, and I'm not real familiar with, you know, I'm like a newbie to all this even now. I'm just, you know, trying to do it as a, you know, little blogger with my stamping hobby, and Cricut stuff, of course. But and I wouldn't even know another site to host with, and DreamHost was very affordable for me. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I see Ocean WP, and is this the just the free version and not the pro? The one you're showing me?
Yes, I can put the link into the chat.
Oh, okay. I see it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So that was my question, and thank you. I'm sorry I kind of changed because then I got the I wasn't sure if I could still keep it. I knew it was going to be a risk, but I didn't know how much, but I see it's a big risk. So I better get back to the drawing board.
Yep, unfortunately, you are in that boat.
Yes, unfortunately.
I need to move on to the next person.
Yes, and thank you so much. I got the link.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Greta is asking, should WordPress be installed in a subdirectory or root? It greatly depends on your hosting company and how everything is set up there. You need to work on rebuilding a WordPress site while keeping the current site live. What I personally do is I fire up a staging site. I host with hosts that have built-in staging sites. Typically, what you would do if you're just on a cPanel host would be to create a subdomain of your main domain. And when you create the subdomain on a cPanel, it will automatically create a specific folder for that to go into. And then you'll install your WordPress into whatever folder it creates for the subdomain. And then you can build there if you're using cPanel. Hopefully that answers it for you, Greta. All right, Ted is next. Is there a plugin developer that I have had exceptional customer service from? Ted, I'm going to need a bit more context. As in what kind of plugin you're looking for.
Well, I guess just in general, in your experience of just because I know there are many who make the same are made by the same company, and if you had a company that you felt they had exceptional customer service, is what I'm getting at.
Again, what kind of plugin? There's a lot of categories of plugins, and most of the plugin houses kind of focus on one category or another.
That's true, but I would just thinking of in your experience, that is I guess you've done different kinds of sites. That's not helping you. Okay. I withdraw my question.
Okay. Yeah, it's very open-ended. All right, Karen is up next. Are there any WordCamps being planned? Do you mean worldwide or US? That I'm aware of, I know WordCamp Europe is happening. That's somewhere over in Europe, and I think it's this summer. WordCamp US is happening in San Diego later this year. If I remember right, it's in the fall. I think a couple other places are working on WordCamps, but it's a little hit or miss due to the whole COVID situation. You can just look up online for WordCamps. There is WordCamp Central, which tells you about what WordCamps are coming up and where they are at. You just click on more WordCamps. Looks like there is one in New Jersey in June. That would be the closest one in both location and distance. And the other one planned in the US looks to just be WordCamp US in September. So there's not a lot of them planned right now. All right. Greta is asking, how do you get rid of line spacing between paragraphs? Frequently, line spacing between paragraphs is actually a theme. So what is happening is your links are using Font Awesome, but Font Awesome is not actually loading onto your site. So it depends on whether you are using a plugin to do this, if your theme was supposed to include Font Awesome. Basically, it means Font Awesome isn't loading properly. A lot of themes do come with Font Awesome. That doesn't mean that they actually are loading correctly. One of the easiest non-technical ways to fix it is to just install a Font Awesome plugin. This is the official one by Font Awesome. You just install their plugin, and that will usually fix the issue because it loads in their style sheets correctly. And I can put that link into the chat. All right, Michaela, do you know if the WordPress interface in GoDaddy has the same functionalities as working on the WordPress platform? If you are on part of GoDaddy.com, then you are viewing GoDaddy's management area. If you are actually on your website running WordPress, then it is basically the same regardless of your hosting company. with the caveat that your hosting company obviously impacts performance, what plugins are available, and some other things. All right, Ted is asking, if you wanted to create a PHP solution that gets data from the WordPress Job Manager plugin and puts the favorites onto your homepage, you can, WP Job Manager probably has some documentation as far as what functions it supports. Typically, though, you're going to be looking at a custom coded PHP solution. For that, you'd probably be looking at either learning PHP yourself or hiring on one of the marketplaces. All right, is there anyone else who has a question?
Yes, I have a question I submitted. Do you want me to post it on the chat?
Jackie. No, I've got the spreadsheet up.
Okay.
All right, you are
Thank you.
wondering about WordPress layout builders and if Elementor is a good one.
Right.
Generally, my answer on that is yes. The issue you had is when you removed Elementor and then you lost all of the functionality that Elementor provided. Yes, Elementor is actually one of the smoothest for when you remove it. A lot of the others leave behind a significant amount of junk
Oh, wow.
that makes your pages and posts look just downright awful. So Elementor actually is one of the nicest ones when it leaves.
Yeah.
Reinstalling it might not bring it back, especially if you saved the page, because then the plugin would have forgotten that it was supposed to be working on that page.
Oh,
And again, it actually does clean up some of itself when it leaves. So it might not have stored all of the data around that. And if you edited the page while you had Elementor off, Elementor would have definitely lost data about what it used to do on that page.
oh, I see. Yeah, that explains a lot. If I'm using like certain kinds of blocks, like an accordion block on the page, is that something that's available through Gutenberg? Or, I mean, what's the difference between Elementor and Gutenberg? Because I know at one point we had both of them, and now for some reason I don't see any options like Gutenberg anywhere. So I don't know if they got deleted or somebody deleted them, not me. But
so Gutenberg is on your website by default, unless you do something to disable it. So there are several plugins out there which can disable Gutenberg and give you only the classic editor.
Yeah, that's, I think, what
So
happened.
if one of those is in use, then you would have lost access to Gutenberg because you have software installed on your website which is removing it.
What kind of plugin could that be that would have removed?
It would typically have a keyword in it such as Gutenberg or classic or editor.
Okay, yeah, classic editor is one that we got. So we can't have Gutenberg and classic editor at the same time?
The classic editor plugin allows you to be able to toggle between Gutenberg and the classic editor. However, if you save something in one, you depending on what exactly is involved with that, then you could have some issues.
I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're using Gutenberg, you can go to settings on it and switch back to classic editor. But swapping back and forth between Gutenberg and the classic editor in the same post is generally generally goes very poorly. It's best to basically say, all right, I'm ready to move this post to Gutenberg. It's going to go to Gutenberg and it's never going out.
Well, like this would be a page. It's the whole page needs to be
Yes.
able to stay
Which-
with the original design.
Okay. So when you use the classic editor, you can have it, there's a setting in it for you to have enabled one to basically allow you to toggle between on each given page.
Oh,
And as long
okay.
as you don't have other things causing conflicts, then that works smoothly.
If I had, like what I found out this week was that we reinstalled Elementor, so it was, I wasn't able to make any updates with Elementor because it didn't allow me to do any changes to the page layout or whatever, or add to it. So I started hand coding things, and I had to figure out, you know, how to recreate one of the accordion block things that had all this content inside of it. And I solved that one, and then I also solved the audio player design thing, which was a whole nother matter. It was just a difference in the style of the audio player, which I could control through the code. So I'm doing hand coding, but now I see that this page is sort of not going to be editable in the future unless I can do the toggle thing, but I don't know if that's, what about just reinstalling Gutenberg? Is that going to replace then Classic Editor, or am I misunderstanding?
Well, again, Gutenberg's already installed. What you have is you
Okay.
have Classic Editor, which is a plugin that is disabling Gutenberg.
Oh, okay. That's what happened, because the other person liked to work with the Classic Editor and not Gutenberg. But you don't think, I mean, if we toggle back and forth or we set it up so that I could use
It's going to be a nightmare on any
Okay.
given page if you try to go back and forth on the same page.
Oh, I see.
You
Yeah.
really want to just, for each individual page, you need to commit one way or the other. You don't want to be toggling them back and forth. It causes lots and lots of problems. Because every time you toggle off of Gutenberg, you lose a whole bunch of things that Gutenberg did, and it leaves some excess code in your Classic Editor. And then when you switch back from Classic Editor to Gutenberg, you lose a whole bunch of things you just did in the Classic Editor, as well as losing the things that you had before in the Gutenberg editor.
Okay, so if that's the case, then maybe I should just leave the page alone and not try to do anything with it right now. Is that the best option, is just to leave it as it is, and then if I have to build a similar page in the future, just start over with Gutenberg on that page maybe? Or
Yes, that's probably going to be the least hassle, unless you really want to commit to doing an update of the pages. There can also be tie-ins with other plugins and or your theme, which can affect how all of this behaves, because it's the whole ecosystem back there.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think unfortunately some of our features have sort of disappeared. I've tried to restore them, but you know, I don't know how much I can control. So it looks like the best thing to do is, if you're going to try to use the Gutenberg, then just limit it to a
Just
certain
use it.
page and agree that no one else
Yep.
is going to go edit that page or something.
Yep.
Right?
Once
Okay.
the best thing is to, once you turn on Gutenberg, deal with it.
Okay.
Don't turn it off.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
deal
Yeah,
with
I
it.
wouldn't have done it, but somebody else who I work with decided to do that. But okay, thank you so much for that. And that really explains the problem. So I appreciate your answer. Thank you a lot.
All right, our next question is from Greta. How do you move a WordPress subdirectory folder from the domain URL? Can I just copy the files from the subdirectory folder and put them into root? I need a little more information. If you want to unmute yourself, Greta.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Say you have a website called greta.com,
Mhm.
and when I built the site, I asked the question earlier whether I should put install WordPress in the root directory or a subdirectory. So I guess I screwed up and actually installed it in a subdirectory because I wasn't sure what was going to happen with the current site. So say I had a website called greta.com and I installed WordPress in a folder under greta.com called WordPress. So now when I go to greta.com, it says greta.com/WordPress/index.php. I don't want to get rid of that WordPress folder name.
So the very first thing is this is going to require database operations as well as file operations. So do you A, know how to back this up fully, and B, how to restore it?
Yeah, but never mind then. I thought you might had a simple solution that I hadn't heard about. I've Googled it and gone through stuff and I've had issues. I thought maybe you were going to give me a magical fix. But,
no,
one of the things
it's a technical solution.
Oh, I thought you were going to give me a magic answer. Yeah, I've read a lot of documentation and watched YouTube videos and everything. One thing that seems to be the problem is the client I'm working with hosts with Yahoo, and they won't.
Oh no!
They won't allow access to the .ht access file. Yeah,
you
so
have
that's
to
been
edit
a
that.
problem.
You need to get them off that hosting. That is absolutely terrible.
She's got her whole
hosting.
business set up under Yahoo, and she doesn't want to switch. But everything I've
She doesn't have to move her whole business. She only has to move her website and update the A record.
Because everything I've seen, instruction-wise, mention accessing that .htxs file, and Yahoo won't let you.
Because you have to update all your permalinks.
Yeah, so yeah, don't bother to go and
and
explain it to it'll take up too much time. And I've gone through that. Like I said, I thought you were gonna just tell me an easy fix. Hopefully, I was hoping you would.
No, this is a careful and sensitive operation to your database because you can trash your entire website if it goes poorly.
Okay. And I was hoping I could just copy the files to my root, but that wouldn't work either. Well, actually,
again,
Yahoo...
you have to do it has to be a simultaneous file update and database update. And if you don't do it right, your whole website will be gone.
Okay.
And you'll have to have someone who knows how to do it fix it.
You sound like you've heard bad things about Yahoo too. I've seen a lot of posts online about don't go with Yahoo, and if I wouldn't be with a host that wouldn't allow me access to the .ht file. And
oh yeah, Yahoo's terrible. Only thing I'll do with them is get you off of them. Really? Yep.
Okay. I'll recommend it to her, but like again, she's concerned that she's been with them for years and her whole business, she has her whole business set up with them. So
again, she doesn't have to necessarily move all of her email and all of that off of Yahoo, just the website.
Okay, I'll suggest it to her. Okay, thanks.
Do we have any other questions for the evening? All right, then we are going to go ahead and move on to the closing. All right, Karen, do I have positive or negative experience with InMotion hosting? Used to be a lot more positive. I've found that both what they offer and their customer service overall have gone downhill and are definitely no longer on par with many other hosts. So if you need help outside of the meetups, we do in fact have an information page and you can visit it. I'm going to drop that into the chat. And our next meetup is going to be on May 3rd at 7 p.m. Eastern. And it will be a special guest, BJ Bowen, who specializes in local SEO and how to get your business to show up on Google Maps, which is, of course, a very confusing topic, but she specializes in it, and she's going to share some of her wisdom with us. And then after that, we will be doing our June meetup, and that will be June 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern, and that's going to be our bi-monthly Ask Me Anything. Oh, and Tara just chimed in that the Font Awesome plugin fixed all of the Font Awesome loading issues. Excellent. So on that happy news, I am going to say good night, and I hope you all stay well.